Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. How has the National Conference acquitted itself during the recent Kashmir crisis, and how does it see the future of this politically sensitive state? Those are the twin issues I shall explore today with the President of the National Conference, Omar Abdullah. Mr. Abdullah, let's start with the recent agreement between the Kashmir State Government and the Sangharsh Samiti making land available to the Shrine Board. Your father has publicly endorsed and supported this agreement, but so far no one quite knows what your personal opinion is. So let me ask you.
I don't need to have a personal opinion. If my personal opinion was different from my father's or from my party's, you'd have heard it.
Except that you're the president of the party, one looks to you to express your opinion.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. I was in the meeting when the Prime Minister discussed the framework of this agreement, came out, my father was briefing the media, I was standing there with him. If I'd had a disagreement or I didn't think what was happening was right, I'd have told him. The bottom line for me is that if you don't agree with this agreement, you might as well turn around and say that you're against the Yatra, because there is nothing in this that should give anybody cause for concern.
So you totally and 100% support this agreement?
Absolutely. There's nothing in it.
And there's no difference between you and your father's position, as many people in the valley suspect?
No, there isn't. I don't believe there is reason for it. In a sense, all you have done is put down on paper what has been happening for more than 100 years, which is that this land is being used for the Yatra for 2 months or 1 month in the year. And that is about it. You haven't transferred the land, you haven't sold the land, you haven't diverted the land.
In which case, explain this to me. What is the difference between this agreement which you, your father and your party endorsed, and the May 26th order of the Azad government which you objected to? Because it's exactly identical in every way.
The objection was to the perception of it. The objection was to the way in which the government sold that agreement to the people. The objection was the way in which the government came out in two voices on that, and the confusion that they created allowed us no scope for supporting that agreement.
Except for the fact that, just listen to what you said, the objection was to the perception, to the way it was sold, and to the fact that the government spoke in multiple voices. Your objection wasn't to the substance.
Well, if the substance was right, you wouldn't have had a problem with the perception of it. The fact of the matter is that there was no clarity on the duration of the transfer of that land. There was no clarity on whether it was for temporary structures or permanent structures. The order talked about constructing railways, tunnels, road links and other facilities. Therefore,
the order explicitly said that this was in fact for non-permanent structures, for camping purposes only. I've read the order.
Absolutely
I've read the order.
Well, if you go further down the order, you will find that it says in the event that you construct roads, tunnels or railways, then the following earthworks and banking work has to be done. Which means that you had kept
roads, tunnels and railways would be for the good and benefit of the state. They wouldn't be exclusively for either the Shrine Board or for Hindus going on a yatra.
Why would you need a road or tunnel in that area? If you haven't needed one all this while, why would you need it now?
Because presumably it helps communication.
No, there's no communication in that area.
Come back to what you said. You said that your objection arose not from the substance so much as from the perception of it. I put it to you that the principal party involved in creating a misperception, if not a false perception, was your provincial president, Mehboob Beg, who was the first person to claim that the handing over of 40 hectares to a shrine board would change the demography of the state. So when you say the perception troubled you, you created the perception.
No, absolutely not. Mehboob Beg is not a prophet passing on a word handed down by God. He's an individual. If his word was wrong, or if his perception was wrong, or if the interpretation of this order was wrong, why was the government silent?
More importantly, why were you silent?
No,
You're his party president.
We asked for questions, and I am on record in a press conference having said that we are not worried about the change in demography, because the Article 370 will not allow...
But you didn't tell Mehboob Beg to shut up. You didn't contradict him. You didn't even correct him.
I contradicted him. We corrected this perception in a press conference. After that, Mehboob Beg did not repeat this line. It's not our fault if the PDP and the government of the day started following this line.
Let me quote to you what your father at the Tehelka conference in London on the 27th of June said about those people who were creating and raising what he considered to be a false bogey. He said, and I'm quoting, "Just to get political mileage, we are ready to destroy everything that created us." He spoke passionately and angrily against the very people who were creating this bogey. And who were they? Members of his party, in fact, his own provincial president.
Who was dealt with? I mean, you heard this allegation from him once. That's it. From an individual in the party where the president and the patron corrected it. What more do you want?
Look at the storm it created. The whole valley turned around.
I think this is being slightly unfair. The storm was created not because of Mehboob Beg. If Mehboob Beg was important enough to create a storm, he would be able to put the storm out. The storm was created by a government that had no business passing this order without doing the necessary homework and then not standing by the order.
It's very interesting that you excuse yourself of complicity. You have to make your provincial party president seem like a very unimportant man. But leave that aside. He lit the fire. He sparked the flame.
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Don't believe so or don't want to believe so?
No, I don't believe so.
You know what people say? People say that in fact the National Conference tries to have it both ways. They wanted to benefit from a movement. They allowed Mehboob to get away with it, even though they knew that what he was doing was not just arrant nonsense, but dangerous nonsense. Today, because they're a little bit embarrassed by it, they're actually distancing themselves. They're having it both ways.
We distance ourselves from it right then
Not
and there.
very loudly.
No, loudly
sort
enough.
Of voce, in
loudly
fact.
enough.
What do you mean loudly enough? Loudly enough to
Loudly
be heard
enough
in Delhi,
heard.
but not to be heard in Srinagar.
Well, you can't speak and be heard in Delhi unless you're heard in Srinagar.
But you weren't heard in Srinagar.
No, you're more likely to be first heard in Srinagar than in Delhi.
But the point is you weren't heard in Srinagar. No one in Srinagar recalls Omar Abdullah criticizing Mehboob Beg. No one in Srinagar recalls that in fact the National Conference was against the claim that demography would be changed by handing over 40 hectares. No
well, I think then somebody needs to pull out the transcript of the press conference I had somewhere towards the end of June, around the same time that my father was addressing the Tehelka conference, and you will find on record my having said that the change of demography is not the issue. It is more our environmental concerns and concerns with regard to the duration of the transfer.